I am Doomsvince, and this is day 36 of Spawn Year.
Gabrielle's attempt to set up Angela to be prosecuted for treason is revealed in this issue to be a plot built around the convoluted and totally unexplained disappearance of Angela's staff, which Spawn foolishly played around with like a toddler trying to figure out a Nerf gun back in issue 9, and wound up in a plane of reality we're told over and over should be impossible to escape from. But somehow, through blind luck and nothing else, he got back anyway. It's hard not to be curious about what's in a box or a sealed envelope or what happens if you press a button on a device without a clear purpose. But I didn't want to risk disappearing or disintegrating into nothingness or something, so I chose not to take Doomsvince's bait when I found he too had given me a button to press on the back of a tombstone. Now that story point has come back into play, I must admit I'm growing more and more curious myself. That button wasn't there prior to day 9, and it's been inviting me to press it ever since. But I must remain disciplined and focused. I can't risk doing anything that would render all the work I've done thus far, in the hopes of returning home, pointless. The world of Spawn has been so haphazardly thrown together, and its main character is so brainless and unengaging, that I'm afraid this universe is sucking the imagination and writing competence out of guest writers coming in to work on it. Angela #1 wasn't a brilliant comic book, but a solid effort at breathing some life into something that's already, much of the time, on the stale side. Issue 2 has every supporting character we're already familiar with acting contrary to what little we know of, and then ends with Angela and Spawn acting completely out of character by sleeping with each other. I said I would reserve judgment until I saw where Gaiman went with it, and that's nowhere. Not only are Angela and Spawn's motivations for doing this not explored, but it's not even mentioned that it happened this issue. Surely I'm not reading into this. At the end of last issue, they get really snuggly. I have to assume angels have tough skin. Spawn's still pretty prickly from his visit to a heavenly dimension. Their chains and ribbons intertwine, and it gets dark. The issue obviously ends on this cliffhanger, expecting the reader to be shocked and intrigued to see what happens next. So either they slept together, or Gaiman's just screwing with us, because it's never brought up again, and Spawn and Angela's whole dynamic changes. Maybe Angela just took advantage of him in the moment, and now feels free to act superior and actually treat him like the animal she really should think he is, and now she refuses to even dishonor herself by talking to Spawn. But then why doesn't Spawn say anything about it like any other guy would the morning after a one-night stand if the girl was suddenly giving him the 3rd degree? They're waking up next to each other at the beginning, and we do catch them in the middle of a conversation. Angela says to Spawn, "No, I don't appreciate your point of view on this." Now, I suppose they might be talking about the sex, or they could just as well be referring to her situation, being framed. Why is this left up to interpretation? I want to know why these two, of all people, would even consider being intimate, more than just they're a man and a woman alone in what we now know is a hell cave, and readers might find it juicy. Angela, who I was coming to like and who I felt in the first issue I was coming to know, degenerates into an emotional and impulsive, sightless automaton, just like Spawn usually is. I guess he hasn't been a very good influence on her. She and Spawn fight some demons in the cave, which turns out not to be empty after all. They get even more bloody than they were before. Turns out Spawn could have teleported them back to Earth anytime he wanted to, and conveniently also sends Angela back to Elysia, where her only friends are, and not anywhere else where she'd be hunted as a wanted felon. The whole reason they slept in the cave is because Spawn didn't know how to get them out and was missing his cape, which is how they got there in the first place. Once again, the story is forwarded not by character ingenuity or plausible action, but by sheer necessity. This series opened with a solid mystery. Someone's trying to set up Angela for treason. It's obvious in issue 2 that person is Gabrielle, and all we learn about it here is she's using the business with the missing Lance as evidence Angela's playing for the wrong team, which we could already gather. So it's not much of a mystery at all. Gabrielle's entire motivation is "I hate you," and she actually asks if she really needs more of a reason. Yes! How about some background? Why this feud between them? Is Gabrielle jealous of Angela's skills? Her fame? What? And this is where Angela turns really dense. She considers her duty and obligation everything she believes in, and completely turns her back on all of that, just because one angel tried to set her up based on a really vague revenge motive. It's not like the entire society of angels is against her. She has every chance of clearing her name, as one of her friends reminds her. She just nonchalantly says, "Nope, I quit," like she was looking for an excuse to run off on her own. Remember, she was very happy at the beginning and proud of her work and her achievements. She's also been at this for 100,000 years. It just doesn't make sense that she chooses to do this now, and it paints her as very inconsistent and suddenly immature. So now she's a freelance hunter and warrior. It would have been great to get her there believably, but I feel like Gaiman started this with her in the driver's seat, and by the end, she's locked in the trunk, mostly to make another statement about how great independent comics are. I don't know what happened that made Gaiman lose interest in this story, or at least that's how it reads to me, but I wanted to see Angela rub off on Spawn, not the other way around. Wait a minute. I didn't notice this writing before. Does that say pen?